The soft hum of the city outside her tiny window was the only sound keeping Emily company. She sat on the edge of her narrow bed, still in her faded nurse's uniform. The fabric was worn thin from years of washing, the seams stretched by endless shifts. She carefully folded it, her fingers brushing the small tears near the pockets. On the nightstand, an envelope caught her eye, the invitation to the hospital's annual charity ball. Every year, the hospital hosted it to raise money for new equipment, and every year, Emily dreamed of going. It wasn't about the glamour, but the thought of finally feeling like she belonged just once among the doctors, administrators, and donors. But the reality was cruel. Emily's paycheck barely covered rent, groceries, and the little she sent back home to help her younger siblings. The idea of spending even a few dollars on a dress was laughable. Her friends often urged her to come, to just wear anything, but Emily couldn't bear the idea of showing up feeling out of place. She held the invitation in her hand, whispering to herself, maybe next year. But deep down, she knew she'd been saying those same words for the past 4 years. Instead, she pulled out her wallet, counted the little cash she had, and set it aside. Tomorrow, she would buy extra supplies for the ward. Coloring books, crayons, and storybooks for the children who often spent months in hospital beds. It wasn't much, but she knew it mattered to them. She switched off the lamp, her heart heavy with longing but steady with purpose. The next morning, Emily entered the pediatric ward with her usual gentle smile. Despite her exhaustion, she greeted each child by name, remembering their favorite toys and stories. "Good morning, Lily," she said softly, sitting beside a frail little girl whose eyes lit up the moment she saw her. Lily had been in the hospital for weeks, battling an illness that often left her too weak to sit up. But Emily always managed to bring life into her room. Today, Emily pulled out a small surprise, a sketchbook and crayons she had bought with her own money. "Look what I brought you," she whispered, placing it on the table. Lily's face glowed. "For me, really. Of course, now you can draw me something beautiful while I'm on my rounds." Daniel, Lily's father, stood quietly in the corner. He had spent countless sleepless nights by his daughter's bedside, but it was Emily's presence that gave him comfort. He had watched her for days, how she held Lily's hand when the pain became unbearable, how she whispered encouragement when the doctors gave hard news, how she treated his daughter as though she were her own. Daniel's heart filled with gratitude, but also curiosity. Who was this nurse who gave so much of herself, yet seemed to expect nothing in return? He noticed her shoes, worn nearly to the soles, and her tired eyes that still sparkled when she spoke to Lily. Something about her felt different, selfless, genuine, deeply human. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt hope, not just for Lily's recovery, but in the reminder that goodness still existed in the world. Later that afternoon, Emily sat in the break room with a cup of lukewarm coffee. Around her, other nurses chatted excitedly about the upcoming charity ball. "I finally found the perfect gown," one of them said, showing pictures on her phone. "It's going to be magical this year." Another added, "I can't wait. Everyone will be there, doctors, donors, even the mayor. Are you coming, Emily?" Emily forced a smile, her cheeks warming. I don't think so. I don't really have anything to wear." She tried to make it sound casual, but her voice cracked slightly. The conversation moved on, but Daniel, who had just entered to grab coffee, overheard every word. He froze for a moment, watching as Emily lowered her eyes to her cup. He remembered how tirelessly she had cared for Lily, how she stayed late when others clocked out, how she never complained even when exhaustion etched lines on her face, and now here she was, quietly hiding her own struggles while making sure others never felt theirs. Daniel's chest tightened. He was a man of means. He could afford more than enough for himself and his daughter. Yet here was Emily, living on so little, giving so much. As he walked back to Lily's room, an idea began to form. He didn't just want to thank Emily, he wanted to honor her, to show her that her kindness did not go unseen. The following evening, as Emily finished her shift, Daniel waited by the nurse's station. In his hands was a carefully wrapped box tied with a simple ribbon. "Emily," he said gently as she approached, "could I have a word?" She hesitated, surprised by his formal tone. "Of course, is Lily okay? She's doing better, thanks to you." He handed her the box. "This is for you." Emily blinked, confused. "For me? Why?" "Because you've given so much of yourself, and sometimes the people who give the most deserve to be celebrated too." Her hands trembled as she untied the ribbon. Inside lay the most beautiful dress she had ever seen. elegant yet simple, the kind she had only admired in store windows. She gasped, covering her mouth as tears welled up. I can't accept this," she stammered. "It's too much." Daniel shook his head, his eyes steady and kind. "Emily, you've been more than a nurse to Lily. You've been her hope, and you've been mine too. Tomorrow night is the charity ball. Will you be my guest?" The world seemed to pause. Emily's breath caught, her heart racing. For years, she had been invisible, blending into hospital hallways, unnoticed except by her patients. And now, someone was asking her not just to attend, but to be honored to be seen. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Yes, I'd be honored." The charity ball glowed with golden lights, laughter, and music. Guests in sparkling gowns and sharp tuxedos filled the grand hall. But when Emily entered with Daniel by her side, all eyes turned. She wore the dress with quiet grace, her hair softly styled, her smile radiant. For once, she didn't feel like the tired nurse in worn shoes. She felt like herself, worthy, cherished, and seen. Daniel introduced her proudly, not as the nurse, but as Emily, the woman whose kindness had carried his daughter through her darkest days. People listened, moved by his words and by the woman standing shyly beside him. Lily, dressed in a little gown of her own, ran to Emily, hugging her tightly. "You look like a princess," she exclaimed. Emily laughed, tears in her eyes. For the first time, Emily wasn't on the sidelines. She wasn't the one sacrificing in silence. She was the one celebrated, lifted up by the very love she had always given away so freely. As the night went on, Daniel leaned close and whispered, "Thank you for everything. You've changed our lives." Emily smiled softly, realizing that kindness, though often given quietly, always finds its way back. Sometimes when we least expect it, and often wrapped in love. Emily's journey began with sacrifice, quiet resilience, and a heart that always placed others before herself. She never sought recognition, never asked for anything in return. Her only reward was the smiles of the patients she cared for. But life has a gentle way of surprising those who give selflessly. When Daniel placed that dress in her hands and asked her to be his guest, it wasn't just about a gown or a charity ball. It was about finally being seen, valued, and celebrated for the person she truly was. That night, Emily walked into the ballroom not as the poor nurse who couldn't afford a dress, but as a woman whose kindness had transformed lives, and whose own life was now being transformed by love and gratitude.